Well-run organizations have strategic plans that help them to determine priorities and to define their long-term goals. A strategic plan creates a path and identifies strategies to ensure that the institution is headed in the right direction and is achieving its stated objectives. Today's launch, therefore, is not just an empty ritual. It is not just the fulfillment of the ODPP's statutory obligation, neither is it the ticking of a checkbox in the life cycle of performance management requirements of the public service. Instead, it is a master plan for delivering the vision and aspirations of the institution for the next 5 years. It is a witnessing of the making of a solemn promise for the performance of which the ODPP will be responsible and accountable to the people. I am confident that if the ODPP faithfully and fully implements this strategic plan and secures the delivery of high-quality prosecution services to the citizens of Kenya in line with its people-centered approach to prosecution, then nothing will hinder this office from its aspirations of becoming a criminal justice system leader, the pursuit for distinction, difference, and autonomy, and instead pursue collegial engagements and collaborative frameworks across all arms and anchors of government, including independent offices, constitutional commissions, county governments, all of us operating within the spirit of delivering as one. It is for this reason that President Ruto established under Executive Order Number 2 of 2023 a liaison function under the Office of the Deputy President, mandated not to interfere with independent offices and institutions, but to liaise with constitutional commissions, independent offices and institutions in matters that require the intervention of the national government, including their budgets, resources, policy formulation, implementation of the recommendations that come from independent offices. This arrangement has provided an avenue for addressing various concerns raised by independent offices and institutions, such as the ODPP, in a manner that minimizes unnecessary and unhelpful disagreements. The arrangement allows the leadership of our various institutions an opportunity to create intersections between and among ourselves that will lead us to operate more effectively to produce results. In this regard, I am reminded of the immortal words of Benjamin Franklin when on 4th of July 1776, on the occasion of the signing of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, in response to John Hancock, who had observed that we must be unanimous. There must be no pulling different ways. We must all hang together. He stated in response, yes, we must all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately. Franklin was talking about the interdependence of the different groups of the American Revolution. In this case, we are talking about the interdependence of different institutions across government, even those distinctly labeled independent. The independence doctrine, though promoting the status of separate and distinct roles, is not mechanistic. The lines of demarcation must be viewed within a certain amount of pragmatism and cooperation, namely, that the independence of offices and institutions start and end with decisional, administrative, financial, that is budgetary, and operational autonomy. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, while we applaud and celebrate the creation of independent offices and institutions by our Constitution, we also remind ourselves that for the realization of the objectives, the purposes, and the vision of those independent institutions, it is important that these institutions work collaboratively with other arms of government, and other institutions, because no single institution can deliver without the support of each other. The judiciary, for example, is independent. The ODPP is an independent office, and so many others. But they require other arms of government, as just exemplified this morning by the Director of Public Prosecutions, that he has had the support, for example, of the colleagues in Parliament, in the National Assembly, to pass his budget. So unless you build a collaborative, cooperative, friendly relationship with other arms of government, your independence will enter into headwinds. And therefore we say that independent institutions and offices are independent in 4 aspects. First, decisional independence, that you have the independence to make decisions without interference from any authority or quarters. The decisions you make on who to prosecute, which prosecution to terminate, those ones, nobody should, and no institution or should interfere with that decisional independence. Secondly, administrative independence, whereby ODPP as an independent institution must run its programs and projects administratively under the chain of command that is established. Thirdly, financial and budgetary independence. The moment you receive your resources, how you spend them, nobody should interfere with that. And finally, operational autonomy, that your operations must be independent from interference from any other quarter. Beyond that, the rest of the ground calls for interdependence, collaboration, cooperation with other arms of government so that you can deliver on your mission. I am therefore here today, ladies and gentlemen, to play my part in recognizing the intersection between the ODPP and the executive in delivering on the common agenda. I am here to support and endorse this strategic plan by the ODPP and commit to the government's full support of its implementation. The executive is committed to providing resources, finances allowing, to ensure that we not only enhance but also safeguard the independence and interdependence of the offices and institutions. President Ruto has been steadfast in his emphasis that he will not interfere with the functions of independent offices, but he encourages a whole-of-government approach with the criminal justice system. Just again for emphasis, we have 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, but they are arms of one government. There is one government of the Republic of Kenya with 3 arms, and therefore the independence of our institutions should be seen within the spirit of interconnectedness, subject to the 4 areas of autonomy which I have already outlined. I congratulate the ODPP for its commitment to the national values and principles of governance that are distinctly captured in the plan. Our transformative constitution is the bedrock of this enterprise, entrenching the principles of transparency and accountability in a robust manner and requiring that public participation and open government is secured. Stephen Breyer, Associate Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court Judge, speaking at a seminar on the legal profession and public service, observed that the legal profession today, where the ODPP and the team falls, projects 2 very different images. On the one hand, there is the image of the legal profession implicit in the lawyer jokes and lawyer books, like a book called Lawyers and Other Reptiles, which has very many jokes about lawyers and what they do and how they get away with so many things. That is the one image of our legal profession. But there is a second image projected by the legal profession, namely the more positive image that the lawyer is a problem solver, a statesman, and a productive participant in public life. The DPP operates within the latter projection, the latter image, that a prosecutor is a problem solver. We need to fight corruption. The prosecutor must help the society by bringing to account those who misuse public resources. So the lawyer then, the prosecutor, is a problem solver and a productive participant in public life. As an essential agent of the administration of criminal justice, the prosecutor's role is one of great responsibility. And I dare say the responsibility of the prosecutor under our Constitution is immense. It's tremendous. But as the saying goes, to those much is given, much is required. And therefore, this responsibility comes with great requirements of accountability. In most systems, the core functions of the prosecutor is the making of the decision to prosecute and also representing the prosecution in court. In other jurisdictions, the prosecutor investigates crime and supervises investigators' compliance with procedural rules. In many systems around the world, the prosecutor also may have a role in representing the public interest and protecting vulnerable people. Indeed, prosecutors are obliged to carry out their functions fairly, impartially, and objectively to respect and protect human rights, to ensure that the criminal justice system operates as expeditiously as possible, to abstain from discrimination on any grounds, and to ensure equality before the law. A prosecutor must act to a higher standard than a litigant in a civil matter because the prosecutor acts on behalf of society as a whole and because the consequences of criminal conviction are grave. This mandate and responsibility of the prosecutor therefore require the prosecution and indeed all legal practitioners operating in this space to be like Caesar's wife, beyond reproach, and to hold the highest standards of ethics and integrity. Whereas the greater majority within the ODPP and indeed the public legal sector space have lived up to this billing of being problem solvers and active participants in public life and upholding integrity. Unfortunately, we have many cases where prosecutors, just like their peers in the rest of the profession, are slowly sliding into the throes of the former description which I gave of where lawyers are characterized as reptiles and predators and all manner of descriptions, which is very unfortunate. So unlike before, we have very many cases of legal professionals in the private space, in the public space, including prosecutors who have chosen the path of becoming predators and reptiles. We have moved away from the long-established tradition and canons of our professional ethics and governance ideals that were the bedrock in the days of our youth. Today, the honor, prestige, and sanctity of the legal profession is on trial. The legal profession can play a distinctive role in the fight against corruption. Indeed, corruption is often facilitated through acts of omission and commission by professionals in the public sector, lawyers, accountants, auditors, economists, engineers, and others. Yet, professionals are best placed to enhance the development of ethics, integrity, and standards so that they can act as a shining example to the rest of the society. It is imperative that the leadership of professional legal institutions, especially those in the public sector, including the judiciary, the Attorney General's office, and the ODPP, take deliberate effort to restore us to the dignified path of yesteryears. You know, when I went to law school 30 years ago, they told us that initially lawyers never used to ask for any fees or any compensation. They used to serve society, and they would wear a robe and pass through the marketplace as they go to work. And the small pocket you see behind the robe is where people who were happy with the services they were rendering would drop tokens. Some token would be dropped there, and you would not even look back to see what is being dropped there. And that's how they used to earn their living at the beginning. Not today, of course, isn't it? So you need to help us, ODPP and the team, to restore our profession to the glory of yesteryears. I commit to playing my part in this regard, not only as a member of this profession myself, but also as a steward of the ongoing deliberations between the three arms of government on the anti-corruption and good governance tenets to guide our common future as a modern, prosperous, democratic nation. What His Excellency the President has done is to encourage the three arms of government to reach out to each other on areas where we require convergence without interfering with any independent institution. We must find ways of the entire government facilitating, each arm facilitating the other to realize its vision. Parliament playing its role, the executive playing its role, the judiciary helping us by not also dragging government programs, and that discussion is ongoing and is making a lot of progress so that instead of, for example, of a case that is a public interest matter involving huge government programs and investments of public funds being delayed for 10, 20 years, we are asking the judiciary that we do not require a favorable judgment. Let the judgment be on merit, but please let the judgment be made fast enough so that we can decide whether to free the resources to other programs or not, other than holding it back in endless injunctions, conservatory orders, and other things until it is disposed of 20 years after the fact. There is need for continued collaboration, not just between the various criminal justice sector actors, but also between other stakeholders, including external and non-governmental partners, some of whom I am happy to see present here today. It is only through such cooperation that we can maximize on our individual limited resources. Mr. DPP and your team, let me congratulate you once again for this achievement. Real work begins now with the implementation of the plan. We look forward to the continued transformative interventions as championed under the tenures of the previous DPPs, or as may be subsequently enhanced or upgraded under your leadership into the future. We look upon you to provide the necessary leadership and the translation of this vision into reality. Today, therefore, is a mark of continuity as it is a mark of change. I wish you every success. God bless Kenya and its people now and in future. Thank you very much. And now I declare this